What is up, Scrub Familia? Pat here, and I am back with arguably the most requested deck profile I have done in some time. You guys have hit me up in private messages on Facebook. I've been tagged on multiple posts in the group. I promised you guys I would get it to you. So here it is. This is the Clash Coup deck. It is an updated version. It is not the exact 65 that I played at Philadelphia, Pro Play Philadelphia. You guys may have seen my friend Will. He basically took a better / worse version of my deck. I mean, because obviously he did better than me, because I tilted off the face of the earth after my stream match with Nick Brady because of several factors I'm not going to get into. But yeah, Will topped with it, and he basically used a version of the list that was incomplete. He basically did it all from memory. So if I had to go back and do it again, this is the deck that I would do. Before I get into any further explanations of the cards, I want to just take this time real fast to thank our sponsor here at Shenron's Lair, as well as 3XG Productions. Bearded Collectibles, Alec Pastrana, best shop owner on the planet. Definitely buy all of your singles, upcoming draft box stuff coming at the end of September. Look to Bearded Collectibles for all of your sealed product needs. So definitely check out Alec. He's a good guy. 10 out of 10 would play DC deck building game with him again at Nationals. And I'm actually looking forward to that, Alec. If you do watch this video, please hit me up. I'll actually be in Orlando in a week and a half. So yeah, maybe we can get some games in then at that point. So yeah, this is a leader that not many of you guys probably remember. This is Clash Coup, Clash of Fates, Son Goku. Front side, he has Burst 2. When this card attacks, you may choose one green card in your hand and place it in the drop to draw 2 cards, and then at 4 or less life, he switches to the 2 energy to active mode, and so on and so forth. Backside, Sparking 5. If you have a Krillin in your drop, he gets plus 5k and double strike. So he's 20k double strike on the backside. So you may be asking, why this deck, or like why this leader? So I just want to take this time, shout out to Kevin and the rest of the guys at No Counters No Combos. They came to my prelims, and I was playing Gogeta Ramp, and Kevin showed me this Clash Coup deck, and I was like, holy crap. I wanted to play, big Galaxy Brain Meme.dec with Kaioken, and he literally just did it better than I did. So I was like, okay, he put the idea in my head that Clash Coup is an actual viable strategy, and in fact, it might be the best strategy for being Kaioken in the format. So this is my take on his idea. And I'll go over the card explanations again right now, as well as the sideboard, which isn't a complete sideboard. It's just all of the possible options you could side. All right, so because our leader, I should actually explain the basis of the deck. Our leader is 20k double strike, and we are trying to finish the game with Kaioken. So the potent way to kill our opponents is to get them to 5 life at some point in the game. Use Feat Kamehameha, which gives our leader plus 15k and critical, which when combined with 20k double strike base is a 35 critical double strike. When they're at 5 life, that's very difficult for any leader to block. That puts them at 3. That sets you up for big brain meme Kaioken to basically just kill them at 3 life, because he's a triple strike and you get 2 shots at it. So Krillin, calling for help. So this is the primary card that you're going to be discarding along with the next card that we go over. Most of the time with Goku to draw 2 cards because it turns on double strike on our leader. You can play this card for 1 at any point to draw a card, and then when you awaken, he gains blocker and plus 3 entrance cost or plus 3 energy cost. So yeah, that sets up for another trick play that we have in the deck that's kind of like a fake out. Important to note that this Krillin costs 4 when you're awoken. So like if you're going to intend to use him as a blocker, play it before you awaken. It's actually very difficult to get this guy on board with blocker and get him to stick. He's most relevant in the Toa matchup, but most green and red decks just have removal that just straight up kills the thing. So if you stick it early, it's probably not going to live often. The best use is when you're going to awaken to play 2 Krillins and then awaken and then do your actual play for the turn. 1 for the greater good. Excellent to discard it at the beginning of the game off your leader to draw 2 cards because it's just always there, and you will be able to guarantee a negate at some point if you're also playing against a big brain meme Kaioken deck across from you. Shocking Death Ball, it's our sparkling negate of choice. I wish it was Dimension Magic, but it's not. It's okay. You have to play it because we're trying to keep our life total high in this deck for Kaioken. You'll notice it's a recurring theme with most of the cards in the deck. They are just cantrips that we are using to just fodder off to protect our life and keep it high. Trunks, Bridge to the Future. Puts 2 cards in the drop for Kaioken, and it finds a Saiyan. This deck has something like 35, 40 Saiyans in it. Like, you're going to find a Saiyan. It's probably the best 1-drop you can be playing in the deck. 3 Heroic Duo Videl. This was originally the Kaba from set 1, saying Kaba that was double strike, and you guys saw that on the stream. But I realized after the event, it would have just been better to play a different 1-drop, and I don't really need to go aggressive because Kaioken will win me the game. If I just build straight defense, how's my opponent killing me? Even if I go Kaioken, as long as I awaken and keep 2 energy up and I'm not committing those 2 energy to anything that can kill me, even if they Mutai to me, in theory I should be able to stay alive through cards like Heroic Duo Videl, For the Greater Good, Shocking Death Ball, and Gogeta Resonant Explosion. Riot's the Oppressor. Yeah, so this card is, we need a Saiyan for the next card that we'll talk about. We needed high red count. He cantrips, so that fits the bill. Also super important, don't be a baddie like me and combo this card off the board when you know your opponent sided in Haru Haru, or you will auto lose the game. So next up is Bulma from the sidelines. This is Faithless Looting. You just need to have a Saiyan in play. If you guys don't know, as of today, August 26, 2019, Faithless Looting is banned in Magic the Gathering because it's that broken. So yeah, this card is Faithless Looting. So you should just play it. It draws 2 cards, and then you discard 2, which sets up for big brain Kaioken memes. Preemptive Strike, we can't play Denial of Hope, but this card is actually pretty relevant. It's super, super good also in the Janemba matchup. You just don't swing with your leader and burst, and you preemptive any of their 3-drops, and you just use any of the other counterplays in the deck to deal with the 4-drops. So yeah, 3, it synergizes perfectly well with our deck. If we're just comboing off our cantrips, our opponent has to actually spend real resources to get damage through on the leader by spending extra cards. For everything else, that's all the counterplays in the deck. They're not actually going to do anything. Anything that's 4 or less, it's just going to die to most of the counters in the deck. So that's going to let you get to 5 energy with a high life total, so you can big brain meme them. Defensive stance, SS Vegeta, Sparking 5 super combo. You can get this as early as turn 1 based on what your plays are. You can literally, you know, swing for turn, burst 2, discard a Krillin, draw 2, play Trunks, mill 2. There you go. Super set up for any of those U6 aggro matchups. Broly Demonic Origins. It is check land. We only play 3 because I don't like having too many 10Ks in the deck, and I felt that this card it was the worst of the 10Ks, so therefore it should have the least amount of them. Vegeta the Cruel. Probably the second best counterplay card in the format behind Champa the Trickster. Denial of Hope is probably the 3rd best one. Yeah, it just kills anything that's 4 or less. They warp a card, puts a body on board. Insane. Mach Speed Kaioken, we only played 2. Again, we need red counts, we need Saiyans, and it's good for basically anything that's not a Vegeta the Cruel target. If they Kaioken you, like setting it to 15 is decent if they're at least, you know, they're only at 2 or 3 life. So it can save your behind. It's not the best, but, you know, it is pretty good. It's also pretty solid versus U6 because you can just kill 2 guys outright with it. You can shrink 1 and then shrink an initial 1. Final Showdown Son Goku. I originally played 2 in the main event. I think that only 1 time the entire day did I ever actually get it. The threat of it being there is more important than actually resolving it. If you discard this card, or you charge this card at any point, your opponent doesn't know if you have extra. Like, I actually sided an extra one, so yeah. They just don't know if you have it. It's like something they have to play around. Super, super good versus Toa. You just stick the Krillin on board, like I said early. If they're not willing to get rid of it or kill it in any way, if they go for the big you know, Mira play, you can just kind of be like, hey, stick Final Showdown on the board and go to town. It's actually pretty potent also against Janemba once they get you to 4 or less life if you're not swinging, because you're not really swinging with anything anyways. So they will swing mill 2 because they have to, otherwise how are they going to win the game? They have to mill you, and then you just block with the Krillin, you just get a big boy on board and for free. And if they try and play like Demon Sword or anything like that to try and get it off the board, you just Vegeta the Cruel, and then they've made the problem, you know, significantly worse. Not like, again, not the best card. It's just the threat of it being there off of a Krillin that scares the crap out of people. It usually doesn't come up, but when it does, it's an absolute blowout. So that's why I still want to keep at least 1 in the main. Gogeta Resonant Explosion. This lets you go absolutely aggro against Zamasu and a number of other slower decks in the format. It's also a lifeline against U6. Paying 1 Ren energy for a 20k, you know, double striker that kills a card when it comes into play, and, you know, not most of the counterplays can't touch it. It's pretty much just Denial of Hope or bust. Yeah, it gets around a lot of crap, and it it can close games pretty quickly if you just do one of these when your opponent swings in you, and then on your turn you just swing with this Gogeta, put some power behind it, say a super combo, and like a Vidal you already had on board, and then just flash into play another one. People like you just close out games really quickly, especially if you took a bunch of punishment in the aggro matchup. Like if they've gotten you really low, they're suddenly just like, wow, this guy just generated 220Ks with like 2 energy that are double striker, and his leader's 20K double strike. Get out of here. Yeah, so this is why I really like this deck, is because Gogeta gives us the flexibility to deal with aggro and go fast, and then all of the cantrips give us serious consistency and let us get to the late game for Big Brain Meme Kaioken.dec. I don't have to explain this card. This card's broken. Bajillion Thoughtseize effects. If you get to like turn 5 with 6 or 7 energy, you're winning that game unless they have Mutaito or Champa the Trickster. You're just going to rip apart their entire hand. If they do end up using like a Crusher Ball style effect to switch it to rest mode before it can attack, I strongly consider you awakening, leaving the 2 energy up to play defensively, and just taking away their next turn. Like, who cares if they get rid of the, you get rid of the negates. If you can't kill them, you can't kill them. So it's best to just deny the turn, take away their actual play for next turn, and park yourself at 3 to 4 life, and then wait to untap and then try again next turn. Scrambling SS3 Raditz. This was my secret of choice, because you could swing with your leader when they're at 4 life, and if they say no negates, you can scramble, put them at 2, and since your leader's naturally double strike, you can literally just shotgun them with their whole hand. They can't go Gogeta to get you off the board or any of that stuff. So I'm pretty sure Toa only affects battle cards also, so yeah, like it's just straight up, it's a death sentence. That if you're playing it, there's nothing they can really do about it. They just have to straight up out combo you. And with scrambling on the board and his 2 or less effect, it's really difficult to do that. There is another ultimate that you guys can play. I did not have access to the card. We'll go over that when we talk about possible sideboard choices, which we'll do now. So, cards you can side deck. I'm not going to give you a complete 15-card sideboard, but I would strongly recommend you stick to only the cards you see here in the sideboard section here on the screen, because these I think are the only ones that are really relevant for this deck. Supreme Kai of Time Disruptor, really good against Kid Ku, really good against U6. Puts a lot of pressure on them, or I should say, it takes a lot of pressure off you, which lets you in turn put more pressure back on them, because you could get to the later turns, you can actually resolve your Gogetas, you can resolve your Vegeta the Corals, your Mach Speed Kaiokens. It gives you just a ton of breathing room in those matchups, and it will let you kind of get to turn 3 or turn 4 safely, which if you're getting to that turn with at least a respectable life total, you're going to Kaioken for the win. So you definitely want this card. An Unexpected Turn, really good against U6, especially the Sawyer version where it tries to just tap you out, on turn 2 or less and just kill you when you just have no energy. If they do actually leave you with 1 energy, it is possible in response to the Caulifla to just blow up everything and undo all of their hard work. Really difficult card to use well, but it's kind of necessary if U6 is really heavy in your meta. Speaking of U6, Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan. Again, because that U6 Shenron deck is so brutal, I highly recommend more than any card here that you sideboard at least 3 of this bad boy. I did not side it in Philly, and I regret it immensely. If you come up against assembling the squad, you will get eviscerated. So you definitely want this card somewhere in your 65, at least 2 or 3 for sure. Next up is Paragus the Sacrifice. This is not a sideboard card so much as if you own this 8-drop Broly right here, Ultimate Agent of Destruction, you can completely change your win con in the deck. Instead of having Scramble for the double strike leader play that will end them, you can go for Big Brain Meme Kaioken play. If they Mutaito it, or they Champa it, or for some reason they just have so many negations that you couldn't punch through for victory, you're now at 1 life. You have Paragus the Sacrifice that you played earlier in the game to set up, say, for maybe a Bulma from the sidelines. You sack your Kaioken, discard your whole hand to play Ultimate Agent of Destruction, and since you're at 1 life, you get to swing and just rip apart their hand anyway. They couldn't do anything to begin with. So this is another alternate win con besides Scramble. It sets up 4 damage. My thing is that usually if Kaioken wasn't going to work, then usually this guy isn't going to work either. So it's like, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. You definitely want to have one of these 2 ultimates though, because they enable alternate win cons in case Kaioken does not work out. I owned Scramble, and I also liked the ability for the leader to just out of nowhere kill you, because most people are just not expecting that level of burst. Especially if like you're at they're at 5 life and your leader is already backside. Like you can take them literally from 5 to 1, and then the scramble can just push in for victory. Especially if you put crit on your leader. So yeah, Sorrowful Strike Tien. Many of you guys who watch the live stream know I used Vegeta making a comeback. Nick Brady basically proved to me that smart players, they don't really need to negate to beat you with Janemba, so I never get to put anything back in the deck. So that immediately was just like, okay, Sorrowful Strike Tien is the play. If you're going up against Janemba, this is basically the panic button to try and keep yourself in the game and buy yourself an extra turn or two. It's also pretty decent against the mirror just because you can use it to put cards back in their deck and throw off their math. It's also pretty good against the ramp Shenron strategy just because it puts back their targets back into their deck, so you can get rid of like Gogeta Hero Revived or any Kaiokens that they have in the drop. So yeah. Definitely would mean, or I should say side 3 of these going forward. Hidden Awakening Kale. Zamasu blockers are a problem. Like if your opponent wins the dice roll as Zamasu and they got a good hand and you just have a medium hand, you're not killing them with Kaioken. Like they got like 6 to 8, maybe 12 blockers in play. So if Zamasu's prevalent in your meta or you foresee it being popular for whatever reason, Kale is your girl. She basically stops everything. Foreseeing Hit, Insane in the mirror, also just completely destroys Prison. Yeah, if your opponent, for whatever reason, only leaves 1 energy up, you just Foreseeing Hit and take away their Kaioken play for turn 5, and then it goes to your turn 5, and then you just Kaioken them back and kill them. I did this to Zach LaFlame and a number of other people in testing, and Javon, who played Yamcha in top 16, actually got the idea from me because his shell is very similar to mine. And I would just play Foreseeing Hit and be like, yo, do you got the denial? Oh, you don't have the denial? You lose the game on the spot. So, yeah, really powerful in those scenarios. You just basically force your opponent to have the answer. Even if they have, like, Vegeta the Cruel, you don't care that you lost it, and they put a Vegeta the Cruel on board. You just denied them their Kaioken turn, so they're just dead. Same thing goes with Frieza Prison. I've seen people play Live to Fight Another Day against me. I will gladly pay 4 cards from my hand to guarantee you can't Babidi me, and then I just kill you next turn. So, super, super good. Then we have Faded Kaioken Son Goku. This is a card that's largely for the Toa mashup. Just because you can flash this into play reasonably early and get some cards back into your hand as well as aggress. If you're already low on life, this is something you can use to kind of punch Toa in the face for 2 quick damage. Their hand doesn't really get super big without time regulator, so they're usually somewhere in the 3 to 6 card range for the most part when this guy is coming down in the later parts of the game. And if they want to get rid of Double Strike, that's fine. It's still 2 damage, like I said. If they get rid of Dual Attack, well, I mean, it already triggered anyway, so they just misplayed it and you're getting potentially 4 damage anyway. So yeah, it is just a card that you can just kind of flash into play and give you some extra pressure, because that's the kind of deck where, since they go off turn 4, whether they go first or second, you're basically forced to try to play as aggressively as you can by either using self-harming cards like Saiyan Kaba, or just using as many counter plays as you can in response to whatever dorks they play, and just kind of going from there, rivaling as many Gogetas and Kaiokens into play as you can get. Yes, I know you can only have one of this guy in play, by the way, but I'm just saying, you get the general idea, right, guys? Just flash into play. And last is Mass Saiyan, the Mysterious Warrior. Again, U6 and Kid Ku. Aggro is the bane of our existence. Toa is like a 50-50. So most of the stuff in here is to basically hate out those strategies. Also, Mutaito and Champa the Trickster are also really good, especially against my version with scrambling in the main board. So if you really are afraid of that, the superior version probably would be Paragus, the Sacrifice, with this 8-drop Broly. So yeah, there you go, guys. That is basically the Clash Q deck. This deck is super broken. It's one of the better decks, I think, in the entire format. Unfortunately, I just couldn't really, make it work. It wasn't really the deck that was bad at PBG. It was 100% all me and me just tilting and just being off my game. So hopefully you guys take this deck seriously. You strongly consider it. Play it at your locals. Play it at your next PPG event, regional, whatever the heck you want to play it at. I think this deck is super strong. And like I said, I think this is a tier 1 deck and one of the best decks in the entire format. Alright, guys. I'll see you later. Okay, bye.